I'm proud to say that I completely changed my life in just 1 year. I saw enormous impacts to my health, income, mental well-being and creative output, and continue to feel the benefits every day. The changes I made were tasking but manageable. I look better, I feel better, and I've got new skills and new passions that will pay off for a very long time to come. It starts a few years ago, the year before my daughter was born. I'd become complacent, waiting for my big opportunity to come along that would change my fortune, rather than putting actions in place to help me get ahead. I always thought that my thing just hadn't come along yet. And you know what? I now know that that opportunity never would have come along. You can make progress like this, but it will be incremental and it will never be game-changing. It's not that I was ever unsuccessful. I was in a well-paid, respectable career, but all of my output was for the benefit of someone else. I was making myself an NPC in my own story. Now I'm the main character. Now my journey isn't finished yet, but my story arc has begun and it only gets more exciting from here. Let me tell you what I did and why I will never look back. It all started with health and fitness. I was fortunate enough to find a few key focuses that revolutionised my approach to fitness, and let me tell you, the results were nothing short of incredible. Now, I'm going to put up some pictures to illustrate this, which is kind of daunting because I do find them tough to look at. But we're going to be talking shortly about the importance of putting yourself out of your comfort zone, so I think it's important that I put my money where my mouth is. I'm talking about a total transformation from thin and bloated with puffy face and bad skin to feeling and looking better than I ever have before. So let's talk about the progress. After just a few months, I could feel a new face starting to emerge. I could actually see the bone structure of my face and I felt so much better. I stuck to the plan and the progress became consistent. The end result, a new me, both physically and mentally. I started by building a structured workout routine that focused on strength training through progressive overload. I also got my diet in check, prioritising protein and making better food choices. It was never easy, but I made a commitment to myself. I would work out 4 times a week for about an hour at a time. I made it a non-negotiable. No matter what was going on in my life at the time, those sessions would happen. Now, I won't try to pretend that my diet was perfect, and you know what, it's still not now. I just tried to make the good choice more often than not. Now, we all know what the good choice is. You can intuitively tell whether you should be eating something or you shouldn't. Just follow your gut and try and do the right thing more often than not. To top it off, halfway through the first year, I took on a charity boxing match that gave me that extra push I needed to make a difference. It was 12 weeks of intensive training, but I persevered and I came out on top with the win, and I felt better than I ever had before. Now, if you've ever considered taking on a challenge like that, I wholeheartedly recommend it. Everyone I know who's done it absolutely raves about it. Not only did this new approach to fitness have me looking and feeling better, but through the training I developed an increased workload capacity, and it gave me a renewed energy that became the force behind the next changes I made. At this time I felt that my life was lacking creativity. If you'd have asked me to describe myself in a few words, one of them would have been creative, but I was not demonstrating that anywhere. I decided that I needed to be doing something creative every single day. And it wasn't easy. I started lots of new projects and lots of them didn't last. But I found some really exciting new passions and did launch some projects that have stuck with me to this very day. I tried developing a computer game with friends. I built a website for a tech blog I created. But the ones that worked best for me and stuck with me to this day are photography, videography and writing. Now this isn't my first YouTube channel. I do have a separate channel that's still going, and I have successfully driven traffic in a niche area, and I ended up monetizing that channel after about 18 months. It's not enormous, but my top video has 500,000 views, and it's put me in situations that I didn't think were in my reach, such as consulting for some really well-respected tech companies and trying out hardware long before it makes it to market. It has been unquestionably useful, and it's provided an additional income. Admittedly not a massive one, not enough to live off, but it's been enough to elevate my game and give me a bit more to play with. It also gives me that much needed creative stretch. I've grown to love the camera and I carry it with me every day for photography. I know these are things I could fall back on. If I needed to start again in a new direction, I can lean on these skills. My channels have only ever been about things that I'm genuinely passionate about, so it's never felt like work. Which leads directly to my next point. When your outputs are to benefit yourself, you will find so much more energy. Now, I was working in a decent job at the start of this for a company I still work for. And though I felt like a good contributor and would be confident in outperforming most people, it always felt like hard graft. And that's fine, we need to graft at work and I liked how my time is spent, but you would think after that much output you wouldn't find any energy to do something additional for yourself. But that is just not the case. When the activity is for you, Something like starting a new YouTube channel or any new projects, you will find so much energy that you did not know you had. The key thing here is don't put things off, just get started. There will never be a perfect time and you will never be prepared. Now there's no new magic here, we've known this for centuries. There's an ancient Chinese proverb that says the perfect time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is right now. And it's completely true. You'll always wish you started something earlier, so you might as well just start it now. Stop putting it off and get the ball rolling. To maximise this, you're going to need to prioritise your life and make some time for the activities that are going to make a difference. For me, I reduced TV time significantly. I made a conscious decision to watch just one, maybe two shows a night when it's a shared viewing experience with my wife, and I stopped all solo TV viewing completely. The time I've saved is spent productively. I try to work for myself in the evenings or the mornings before work. Now I'm not saying I get up at 5 AM to hustle. That's not true. I might get up at 6:30, 6 o'clock, and I'll put in an hour and a half before work, and that feels manageable to me. I find that morning time really valuable because I'm much less likely to get distracted by something like a computer game than I would be if I set that time aside in the evening, but I take it where I can find it. If I'm working on an evening or I'm working on a weekend, that's great. And importantly, I ensure that when I'm not doing this, I'm present in the house, bringing a lot of energy for my wife and my daughter. My next change was to ensure I was constantly learning and constantly developing. You need to make sure that any possible time is taken advantage of. My job means I spend a lot of time in the car, so I go in hard on audiobooks and podcasts. My Audible says that I've racked up about a month and a half's worth of listening time. That's a long time. Most of that has come since I made these changes. I consider all books to be a positive development tool because they're either stretching my creative muscles by pushing my imagination, or they offer a deep dive into some factual subjects and give you a real depth of knowledge. I genuinely ensure that whatever my schedule, I read every single day. Now if you've seen my other videos, you'll know I read a lot. I plan to read over 100 books this year. We're about 2/3 of the way through March and I'm currently on 32. And you know what? Last year would have been consistent with that kind of number. The next change I made was to ensure that I always felt stretched or outside of my comfort zone. Up to that point, I would have said I was well suited to my job. I've been in that role for a while and I developed a specific skill set that was helpful in that role. Now that is not a good place to be because that isn't pushing you hard enough. You need to find those situations that make you feel unsure. I felt uncomfortable posting my first YouTube video and I didn't want people I knew to find it. It was daunting learning how to work a professional camera or how to use an editing program, and I'm learning constantly. I used the skills I've developed so far and the renewed confidence to push for a new role at work. A role that makes me feel pushed, allows me to use those creative tools and feel that I'm making a positive contribution. Now I genuinely believe that if you're not worried that you're not up to the task in front of you, then you're not being pushed enough and you won't get the most out of yourself. All growth comes from a place of discomfort. It's frustrating, but it's the truth. You need to find that thing that challenges yourself enough and you will be amazed about what you can do. Now, in an ideal world, the biggest change would be to put all of your energy into a project all of your own. But I'm not there yet. As I say, my journey isn't done, but it is starting, and I would love for you to join me on that journey. The best way to join me is to subscribe. And if you want to kickstart on some of the changes we've discussed, then check out my video of the 10 best books from last year and get those creative muscles stretching. Thank you for joining me. Goodbye.